The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
Hey, this is Matt Landry, the voice of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars The Clone Wars. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars. This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies, books, TV shows, and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. And today we are discussing the 6th chapter of Maul Shadow Lord, entitled Night of the Hunted. I'm your host, Thomas Salerno, and joining me on the panel is Kathryn Laffrey. Hello, Kathryn.
Hello, Thomas.
And also joining us is Jeff Haecker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Thomas.
All right, so before we dive into this action-packed episode, Jeff, you have a recap for us.
Yeah, so the episode begins with Maul practicing his saber forms, and Rook interrupts him to show footage of Marok. Lawson tells Docky and Devon they have to leave, but Docky tells them they need help to find refuge. Docky asks Lawson if he knows a way they can get off-world. Marok arrives and attacks while the Jedi fend him off, and they all escape to go to Rena Sewell's, who says she will help them, but they are found by the Empire. Marok chases them to a train where Maul shows up, and they all duel on the train, but Devon cuts Marok's car free. She holds her saber on Maul, but then reluctantly lowers it.
All right, so what are our first impressions? What are our general impressions of this episode? How about it, Jeff?
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I think it was a good way to kick off the second half of the season. And of course, this was paired with episode 5, so you know, if you weren't waiting and you know, being disciplined, if you were giving in to the quick and easy path like I did, you didn't have to wait to see it.
Dark side.
But I really love the action. It was cool getting to see kind of Docky get in, because I think we've seen him in action a little bit, but this was, I think, one of his kind of, well, I mean, we saw him in the against Maul at one time, but this was against an Inquisitor. So, and getting to see, you know, all the troops attacking them, I thought was like Docky fighting, you know, hitting back the bolts from the ship. And then another step down the path for Devon as she chooses not to try to fight Maul and tries to start, you know, they kind of start teaming up with him and, you know, leaving Brander and Docky kind of behind. So we'll see where that goes when they all reunite eventually. But yeah, no, overall, I thought it was a really good episode, really action packed, and set up the rest of the season nicely.
What do you think, Kathryn?
Oh, this one had great tempo. It was like a hard staccato all the way through. It was just fun and exciting, scary at times. And then you just have these constant jabs of fighting with really good one-liners mixed in with it. So there's just this constant tempo, just bang, 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 much like the blaster shots, which were gorgeous for some reason in this. I mean, the lighting and the visual special effects with every shot was just crisp. It was really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. This might be the most action-heavy episode yet. And yeah, I'm still maintaining my discipline, despite spoilers. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this episode. Just so much action, so many good character moments. Right from the beginning, actually, I really enjoyed seeing Maul just taking time to practice the fundamentals, you know, to like practice his lightsaber stances and forms. It was very dance-like, you know, almost had like this kind of dancer movement to his saber training, which I just thought was, you know, we rarely see the bad guys get these kind of quiet moments where they're not doing dastardly deeds. They're just practicing their moves or whatnot. So I thought that was a nice character moment for Maul.
Yeah, it was a nice contrast to the Jedi, you know, because we've seen Jedi meditation, and that they're usually, you know, kneeling down or sitting and meditating quietly, but that's not how the Sith would do it. They would be very, and especially, you know, an action assassin guy like Maul, like, would be very much in that would be part of his meditation, would be engaging in the action and practicing the forms and the flips and everything. So I did really like that contrast to kind of what we like, kind of a Sith version of, you know, meditation and meditating on the Force. I thought it was interesting to see.
And he did take his newly tuned up knee through all the moves it could possibly go through.
Yes.
Almost like a test drive for the knee tune up.
Yes, yeah. And I like how he started with single blade before progressing to double bladed lightsaber. That was really neat. And as you said, Jeff, in the intro, Rook interrupts him to show the new intel of what's going on, and that, you know, Marok is on to them, apparently. And yeah, and at one point, like, it seems that the Inquisitors are so new at this point that, you know, they're still being called Jedi hunters by most people rather than Inquisitors.
I found it helpful with this episode to go and watch Tales of the Empire when we see him at the very end of the episode, him and Crow, right? Crow, and a couple others. So it just kind of was like neat just to see the build up to that moment and knowing, you know, who they're with and how they're trained. So
yeah, and from what I was looking something up online earlier, and Marok is the first brother, so he's I guess that would mean he's the first Inquisitor, or at least the first male Inquisitor that is part of that group. And yeah, I think this is still, because by the time we see the Inquisitors and Rebels, that's about 10 to 15 years from now, because we still don't know the exact timeline of this show, but that's 15 years after the events of the prequels and the end of the Clone Wars. So there's been at least some progression in the way Inquisitors operate. And we don't see Marok in that show, but he, of course, is alive, or well, I guess we don't know because he was alive, because he was turned into a gas bag by the time of Ahsoka. But yeah, so it's interesting getting more of his story here, and how that, you know, how that might go for him.
Yeah, and it's interesting that when we've seen them before, now not always, but usually Inquisitors tend to operate in pairs. So, you know, and we know that the second one, the Crow character, is showing up later. And you can see that Marok is kind of, you know, he's deadly and dangerous in this, but he is a little bit outmatched because he's not only dealing with Darth Maul, but also 2 Jedi. So you can see why, you know, later he's going to have to call for backup. And he does by the end of the episode. He contacts somebody. I don't know, the Grand Inquisitor, Vader, the Emperor. It's not really made quite clear. You know, he does the thing where he kneels in front of a hologram like they always do. But and he arrives pretty quickly in the episode at Lawson's apartment. You know, Lawson's talking to Docky. They actually have this nice kind of quiet but also tense conversation with one another, before Marok just does the thing where he slices through the door with the lightsaber, and then all heck breaks loose.
That's where a couple good one-liners came in, was when Lawson's first home, he's finding out what's going on, And he's like, okay, tea time's over. I love that Lawson just threw that out there. And then when Devon was, okay, grown up talk, they head off to Riley's room. It was just fun just to see just these little one-liners to help break up the tension.
And then he refers back to the first episode where he says, don't let her steal anything.
Yeah.
Because he had busted her for shoplifting.
And she gives him a look of like, okay. Like,
okay, Dad.
Well, and it was funny, too, because when they go to Riley's room, he's like trying to clean up real quick because he's like, I've got
a girl in my room.
Yeah.
His looks when he was sitting next to her were priceless. Just fidgeting inside, licking her the whole time was adorable.
Yeah, and telling her about space lacrosse, or I guess it's Bodekin is the sport. And yeah, I think last week we were talking about how on rewatch it was clear to me this time that it was an intentional let's let Lawson go and see what happens kind of a situation, because he even said, or like they even say something about that. I forget what the line was, but yeah, I think it's clear that they were like, they let him go. It's, classic Imperial tactic, because we'll see that in all the way into New Hope where they let the Falcon go in order to track them. So,
right. Yeah. Taking an awful risk, Vader, like, yeah.
I wonder if when Marok was slapping his hands on his shoulders was putting a little tag on his jacket. Little Find Mine tag.
Maybe. And I like the whole scene, the fight scene in the apartment, because it's a very cramped environment to have a lightsaber fight in, and they're, slashing everything up, and there's all these obstacles laying around, and, countertops, and, the rooms are very small. So it was a very interesting environment to have an action scene in. And of course, they scramble up onto the roof. Poor Riley, he's all confused because, as Lawson will say to him later, the Empire's not what you think it is. He doesn't know why they're being shot at by the authorities. And they hijack a LAT gunship, which is great. I guess they don't care if they're taking these prisoners dead or alive, because they shoot at them with not just regular blasters, but the cannons from the gunship.
Right. I loved how Devon jumped on the ship.
Yes.
Docky's like, we need transport. And she just, okay, boom, 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 jumps on the ship. It reminded me of Ezra. The way he would just jump onto a ship and go for it.
Or like something Anakin would do too. I hate it when he does that. It's like it. But you can tell they've worked together for quite a bit, because all he needs to say is, "We need transport," and she knows what to do. I liked the one-liner where Lawson says to her, he's in the co-pilot position, and he's like, "Have you ever flown one of these before?" And she's like, "Not exactly." Doubtless she's seen them flown because she was a Jedi in the Clone Wars, but, usually the troopers actually flew the gunships.
Yeah, I think most Jedi too, they learn how to pilot ships and aircraft. So I think for the most part, it's probably the same principle. You just on how to actually fly something. And it's also like the repulsors, I think, are not that hard to fly because they just like hover. It just makes you hover in place until you turn the engine on. So it's a very, relatively easy operation to make it go.
An airspeeder, you don't need to worry about physics so much because it uses repulsor lift. So you don't have to worry so much about flaps or yaw or, well, you kind of do. Those troopers like crash into a bridge at one point.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to know how big your ship is and to know not to hit stuff.
And we finally got to see what happens when a plane does a 0G dive. So we had the little the nose over, and everybody's floating in the back.
Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Another like little vehicle geek out moment. We see an early AT-ST variant of the Scout Walker. I have not seen that variant before. It's different from the variant we saw in Rebels, and it looks like a prototype Scout Walker. Its cockpit module is just a big box. Like, it's not. It walks very, very clunkily. So, like, again, it's neat to see the Empire trying to phase in new equipment at this point.
Did this one have more chicken toes than the other ones?
It might have.
They call them the chicken walkers, right?
The chicken walkers, yeah. Yep. I remember the ones in Rebels had fewer toes than the ones from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I think the Rebels ones were just like a disc, wasn't it? Just like a circle on the foot. So
right, it looked kind of almost like a miniature AT-AT foot.
Yeah.
And the cockpit module only had the single blaster cannon on it, but yeah, this one was just looked like something that wasn't even combat ready. It just looked like something that was like, well, we need to get this out. You know?
Yeah, because the last ones we would have seen most likely would have been like the ones that the clones rode, but where it doesn't have it has the open kind of like cockpit thing.
Right. The recon walkers.
Yeah, so they haven't like built up they're in the process of building up the military and building up the ships and vehicles they'll need.
Yeah, and I've always been interested in seeing the different variants and stuff. Although they really need to make the ATPT canon finally, because that would make the perfect sort of midway between the little ones that the clones rode and then the larger later ones. But that would be a Legends thing. So they would have to that's kind of a Legends deep cut. It's a Thrawn trilogy thing, actually. If you remember, they find a whole stockpile of those.
Oh, yeah.
In the Thrawn trilogy on the Katana fleet. So who knows? Maybe they are out there somewhere.
There you go. Gotta find
I know,
the
Jeff.
Katana fleet.
I know, Jeff. We have speculated before on like the Katana fleet, and it's
Thrawn's back and needs a fleet. Just saying.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, even Two Boots now is starting to realize the Empire is not what he thinks it is, I guess, because the guy told him to put take off his boots. Those boots are not regulation.
What was so funny is his just long, little excitement over the efficiency of the Empire. He's so excited about it. It's like, dude, stop. And I do have to talk about Blake.
Yeah.
We had someone wonder why I had something against Blake's.
I have nothing against Blake's. Like, to anyone out there no offense was intended.
No, it was just funny because I feel like Blake seems like always a frat boy name from, the Brat Pack 80s. And he looked like he'd fit right in there with the frat boys.
He has a lot of freckles. Have you noticed? Yeah. Which is very odd. Yeah. Again, like it's funny when Two Boots finishes gushing over the Empire, all the screens change to Lawson's wanted poster. And he's just like, your captain is accused of treason or whatnot. So who was that other officer that Two Boots was talking to? Does he have a name? He was a guy who was almost killed, right? In the raid.
I think so. And he pops up he pops up a couple more times, I think, in the show. Yeah, I forget his name, but he's kind of just like another guy in the precinct. Doesn't have a lot of, I mean, he's just kind of there as another officer to look kind of like for somebody to talk to sometimes.
Yeah. And Blake is basically in charge now at the precinct because, Kleiss is out of the picture. Lawson is now a fugitive. So, he's basically in charge. I noticed something, too, about the other police droids. They do not have on their visors, their photoreceptor eyes don't glow through like Two Boots' does. You can always see Two Boots' eyes, whereas the other police droids just have the blank dark visor.
Well, what eyes are the window to the soul? So maybe Two Boots has a little soul in there.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And Two Boots does seem like he's kind of the police droid that's, you know, a little bit unique. You know, he wears the boots. He's got this quirky personality. Even Kleiss says something's like, what has your droid done now? You know, like, so.
Yeah, well, he's probably, I mean, because in Star Wars, if you don't wipe droids' memories every so often, like they start to develop these personality quirks. And
yes,
and they talk about that in Clone Wars too, where they don't wipe R2, and there's I think it's one of the earlier episodes that
it's a very early episode. Yeah,
there's trouble because R2 has intel, and they're like, well, it's okay, he's gone, but he doesn't have intel, and Anakin's like, well, actually. So yeah, I think it's just that he's Lawson probably got used to working with him, and kind of, even though he kind of grumbled about it, liked his quirks, and so never got around to, you know, wiping his personality or whatever, and just lets it keep developing.
He didn't do a factory reset, so
yeah.
It's because Two Boots is his barista.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, he always brings him calf. Yeah. Speaking of Lawson's friends, so he brings them to Sewell's place because, you know, she runs a casino, right? That's what it is, right? I saw like
casino, nightclub.
Yeah, I saw like what looked like slot machines in the background. And that
front
weird,
for crime.
front for crime smuggling, it seems like. And that weird, I don't know what the heck that alien was, but rats them out to the or it's implied rats them out.
Yeah.
It's just playing on our anti-alien prejudice, I guess. We're just like, hey, that alien must have ratted them out.
Yeah, and I think I got casting mixed up before, but Rena Sewell is voiced by Pamela Adlon, and her daughter voices Devon. So that's the connection. So is Devon's voiced by her? I forget her daughter's name, but she's voiced by her daughter.
Mm-hmm. I like when they get there, she's just like, Lawson, what have you done now? You know, like he just shows up with all these people, and she's like, I suppose, you know, you need my help. And it was interesting, finally, because I've been wanting this, to get some backstory on Lawson and his life before he was a cop, which seems he was a bounty hunter, I guess, or at least tagged along with bounty hunters, because that's what Sewell was.
Yeah, and
it's unusual. I mean, I know a couple cops have a cop in the family, and so sometimes they come from rough backgrounds or they're, you know, problem children. But you know, being in law enforcement helps them out. So also gives them good connections.
Yeah, and I think if you want that backstory, there's a comic that came out before Maul that's basically is about Brander and Rena Sewell, and I think it tells that story that they're referencing, like their code word or whatever that they're like says, oh, well, you know, do it for whatever it was. I can't remember the name of the
right, and they toast to it in another episode.
Yeah.
And they Lawson basically says they saved one another's lives, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Neither would be alive without the other.
Yeah. And it seemed like this is Riley's first meeting of her. And so kind of interesting. He's discovering stuff about his mom and dad that was kept from him all his life. So it's kind of shaking up his world.
He says he knows of her, but had never met her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he clearly notices that there's tension / chemistry between them. So, you know, it's like any kid in a situation like that. You know, if you're the kid, you'd immediately get suspicious. You know, like, is this dad's girlfriend? You know, like, you know,
yeah. Or if she's not a girlfriend, it's interesting. You have dad has an underworld connection that actually saved his life once, and now mom's working for the bad guys. That'll flip your world.
Because now he's been shot at by the stormtroopers, and you know, and I did really like that the Riley character had the potential to be really irritating if he was written poorly. You know, like he could have been complaining and whining the whole time, or trying to contact the Empire or some other junk, but he doesn't do that, which I was very pleased with. He seems, although his world clearly is being rocked, he seems to be adapting rather well to the situation. He's going along with what's happening to him, but at the same time, you can tell he's still trying to process it. I liked how elsewhere, Spybot is, spying on the Imperials, and I liked that he called the Imperial probe droids trash.
Yes. Trashy droid.
Trashy droid. I'm just like, oh wow. Like he's throwing shade on the Imperial versions of him, which is funny. The stormtroopers do their stormtrooper thing when they come into the office. They come single file through that door so they can all get shot one after the other. And I'm like, the clones wouldn't have made that mistake.
I liked how Lawson and Daki were functioning just like the Jedi and the clones used to. We had the shoot and block maneuver. So they're working together.
Well, there was a funny thing in that where, they have to split up, and Daki's like, don't worry about it. Devon will protect your son. You have my word. And he's like, just your word? That's it? That's not good enough. Like, he's like, is that supposed to make me feel better? He said, you can see how Lawson's very practical minded. He's just like,
Well, Daki's kind of falling into the, he was probably a general in the Clone Wars, so he's kind of falling back into that leadership mindset after hiding for however long from the Empire. So it's nice to kind of see him kind of, they realize he can't hide anymore. So now it's like, now we actually have to use our skills to fight and survive. So I like that he's kind of taken that. It's kind of come back to his, he's kind of going back to who he is at his core.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing about Riley is that, like, now he's seen his dad actually shoot people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he hasn't, but Lawson makes no bones about shooting the stormtroopers.
You know what I just thought about? Riley in school must not be getting the party line about the Jedi being these awful people that betrayed, Palpatine or something. Because he doesn't seem to be upset that they're Jedi. Actually, he seems quite comfortable with them. It's like, if he would have been fed some, lie in school.
But Janix seems like a fairly independently minded planet. And like I think I've said in previous episodes, the Empire will kind of leave you alone as long as taxes keep flowing to Coruscant or whatever. And I guess at this stage, they haven't really taken, they haven't made sure that, the educational system on every planet feeds this bunk to people that, the Empire is a very new regime at this point.
Yeah.
And I think they're still trying to, consolidate their power at this point.
Yeah, they haven't written the new textbooks yet, and sent them out to all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Janix may not have even been a part of the Republic. It may have been an independent world. In which case, it wouldn't have been under the Empire's jurisdiction until they show up, and make it their jurisdiction. Because
they could have simply been a protectorate where it's like, if you have a problem, call us, but otherwise,
or even they could have been, because there was the whole thing with Mandalore in the Clone Wars. There was however many thousand that they represented 1,000 independent worlds. So one of those could have been Janix, because it also it seems like a pretty big hotbed for crime. So that's another thing that kind of could have kept the Empire away or the Republic away. Is if the right palms are being greased, then they won't have that supervision. It's kind of like the Hutts, or the other kind of cartels.
there's so much crime on Janix. I wonder how close it is to Hutt space, and the Empire like really keeps its hands off of Hutt space and lets them operate without too much interference. You know, as long as they get their kickbacks. You know, it seems here like the Pikes are though more of like the main the criminal kind of like overlords influence, and you have people like Vario, who we didn't see in this episode. Actually, he does not make an appearance in. I guess he doesn't have to, but it's like I had forgotten about him until just now.
Like, is he still alive? Oh.
He said he was going to hang around, so I
It'd
guess
be fascinating to see as a criminal syndicate map of the galaxy.
Oh, I'm sure they exist. Yeah.
That'd be fascinating to see how, you know, where the Pikes and the Hutts were relative to each other.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of on the outer rim, you know, far away from civilized worlds, because like Tatooine isn't that, I don't think is that far from like Malhutta, and you know, it's
on the border of Hutt space.
Yeah, they're all.
It's like it's technically on the Imperial side of the border, but it's in like this ambiguous zone, like right next to Hutt space. And you saw in the Book of Boba Fett, as soon as Jabba the Hutt was dead, the Pikes moved in to Tatooine.
Yeah,
you know, there's so much. The great thing about one of the great things about Star Wars is how like it's actually not as simplistic as people think it is. There's a lot of factions and a lot of different groups that have their own agendas, you know, going on. You know, it's not just the Jedi and the Sith or the rebels and the Empire. There's all these different moving parts.
Yeah, Wikipedia says that Janix is in the Mid-Rim territories, and that was an independent world, self-governing. So.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's industrialized enough where it makes sense for it to be more core-word than not. What did you guys think of the train fight?
Before the train fight, did we get our first ever Star Wars parking garage fight?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember seeing a parking garage in Star Wars before, but it was well done and didn't take you out of the show. It kind of made you go, oh, yeah, they'd have to park somewhere for the casino, right?
Right, yeah. And I heard more Dark Knight reminiscent music in that sequence, which makes sense because there are a lot of parking garage fights in the Dark Knight trilogy.
And every cop show's got to have a parking garage scene.
I liked that. Have we seen those subway tunnels in Star Wars that are where the train just hovers through the tunnel and it's all those lights?
I don't know that we've seen trains necessarily, but we've seen tunnels like on Coruscant, and I think we saw it in Attack of the Clones and some of the animated stuff.
Yeah, like what about the early animated Clone Wars?
Yeah, well, there was that was like the Chancellor's like escape pod or whatever. I don't think that was.
There was also a train.
It looked a lot like that, though.
Yeah,
you're right. There was when they were getting the Chancellor out in that episode. Yeah, they had like the subway. So
it was
the visual was beautiful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The tunnel, just having the lighting, it kind of had early Willy Wonka kind of in the tunnel thing. So it added a little bit of that. Oh, that cringiness when I was a kid watching that tunnel scene in Willy Wonka, because you know all the creepy stuff that's going to be on the wall. So just seeing those lights like that just took me right back to that moment. It was like, oh, something really bad's going to happen.
Yeah, no, the scene was very cool, and getting to see, you know, in a show with Maul, like you really want him to get the lightsaber out, and I think this is aside from Devon and Daki in their brief fight a couple episodes ago with Maul, this was the first like where he's really like trying to, because I don't think he was really trying to hurt Devon and Daki in that previous fight. I think he was just trying to defend himself, and when he was still trying to like, you know, draw Devon in. But this one, it was like he's fully fighting Marok off. So and it was, and you know, and then Devon and Maul start kind of teaming up against Marok, and you kind of start maybe seeing hints of how they might work together in the future, and they're fighting against an enemy.
Yeah, I liked Maul versus Marok because it's not often we see Sith on Sith lightsaber fight. Now, and I know, like, you could say neither of them is technically a Sith, but it's like they both have red lightsabers and they both swear allegiance to the dark side. So,
Marok isn't. I don't think he's technically a Sith, because if he was a Sith, he would be like Vader's apprentice. So I think he's.
But he's like a fellow traveler. He follows the ideology.
Yeah, like,
he wields the red lightsaber.
Yeah,
he's in their orbit. Yeah,
he's an acolyte of the Sith, but I don't think he's not, he's not an apprentice, because that would be a threat to. Yeah. Palpatine wouldn't let Vader have an apprentice, because that would lead to Vader getting.
But it seems like a huge loophole to let Vader have all of these acolytes that he's training for the Inquisitorius, and it's like, oh, but at least he doesn't technically have an apprentice. I'm like, then what? That's okay. No, he has like 10 of them or whatever. It's like, it just seems like a huge loophole.
Well, Palpatine needs
teach him.
Yeah, Palpatine needs a group too. So like, if Vader was ever a problem, they could. He has a whole bunch of new apprentices he can pull from.
Palpatine has never.
Secretly, Palpatine has, the Emperor's hand, but we won't talk about her.
Right.
She doesn't exist.
Not yet.
Palpatine has never been an orthodox Banite Sith. He's always been grooming multiple apprentices simultaneously and always switching out apprentices, and have like his interpretation of the rule of two seems very loosey-goosey.
Yeah, he wants to live forever and only, not really pass on the teachings, because he wants to keep the teachings for himself and
for all the power for himself. Yeah, exactly. But it was cool seeing, like, because both Marok and Maul have dual-bladed lightsabers, but in Marok's case, it's like the super cheat code one that can do the helicopter trick that it does.
But can it actually fly like we see in Rebels?
I know.
The worst use of those things, yes.
The Mary Poppins Sith,
Yeah, I love Rebels, but that just doesn't make any sense and never has.
Mary Poppins, y'all. Yeah.
It was interesting, though. A lot of Maul's moves were mimicking what he did earlier in the training.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, including going from like the single lightsaber to the double lightsaber, some of his jumps too. Mm-hmm. So I liked how they integrated that into it. One thing shocked me, though, was Marok saying, "So it's true, you live." Oh my God.
Yeah, that was odd.
Why would he think he's dead?
I mean, it's just
that's the reason they're here, is that there was a Maul sighting. Like,
exactly.
Well, I think it's just that it's a bad guy having to say a one-liner to the other guy.
Yeah,
that's true. And like Maul had a pretty good one-liner before that, where he's like, Marok's like, "Where is Maul?" And he said something kind of like a generic one-liner, "I'm right here" or something like that. Yeah, that was good. It was interesting to see, Maul and Devon actually taking on Marok together. And then, of course, afterwards, she does kind of, she puts the lightsaber to his throat and is like, "Okay, am I going to have to fight you now?" And then he just very calmly turns his lightsaber off and walks away. And he says, it's very interesting. He says, "Now you have seen the face of your true enemy," meaning Marok and the Inquisitors. But of course, I'm like, but according to Banite Sith doctrine, the only true enemy of the Sith apprentice is the Master. So really, her true enemy is still Maul. So,
well, there you go. It's kind of like a little secret double meaning there as he's looking right at her. There's the true face right there.
Right.
But again, the tunnel lights behind him when he says that. That just, added to just the depth of creepiness that you're going through with this guy.
And Jeff, you had a note for something that Maul said to Rook earlier about Devon.
Yeah, it was at the beginning when she was letting Maul know that they found Marok or whatever. But because she's still not sure what the deal is with why Maul is obsessed with Devon. But he straight up tells her in this episode she can be my apprentice, and that should put Rook on notice that if Rook thinks if Rook thinks she's his apprentice, then her days may be numbered. But he does say in a very Mandalorian style turn of phrase is the strongest metal is forged in the crucible. So talking about Devon.
Yeah, that is very Mandalorian, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good way to get the point through to her. Is to put it in metal terms.
But again, that seems to be what he's good at. He's good at insinuating himself, that way by using a frame of reference that you're familiar with to indoctrinate you, essentially. But again, she still looks, just from small facial expressions, Rook is still, she's not on board with this whole thing. Again, like you said, Jeff, probably worried about her own position, but just thinking to herself, he's exposing himself and us to unnecessary risk, doing this. They could just hunker down until the Inquisitors go away, or, and instead he wants to go out in the open and confront them. So there's that too. And of course, like I said, Marok contacts his off-screen master. You see the blue glow from the hologram, but you don't see who it is. But he says Lord. And
yeah,
my Lord.
And
so it's got to be either Vader or Palpatine. I would assume Vader because he's the direct superior of all the Inquisitors.
Yeah. And that's what I saw that parallel with in Tales of the Empire. He's the one who kneels down first when he's in Vader's throne room in his newly constructed castle, and he kneels down first and it's like Lord. So it's like, okay.
Now, is it established that all the Inquisitors are former Jedi?
I don't think we know for sure. We only know. I mean, we know Barriss was a Jedi, and she became an Inquisitor for a bit. The Grand Inquisitor was a Temple Guardian, and then there's a book that's called Rise of the Red Blades. That's a canon novel, and it's kind of about an Inquisitor who was a Jedi Padawan and some of her friends, and how they became Inquisitors. So I think for the most part it seems, but it also Marok and the Crow don't seem very very Jedi-like, so I don't know about them. They could be, I don't know that we'll really get more backstory and other things we could down the road. I mean, but it's also I kind of like the mystery of it too, that where did he come from? Maybe there were some of, Palpatine had these Sith acolytes, because that's something in canon too, in some of the comics, and and of course in Rise of Skywalker, we see there's the whole Sith planet Exegol. They could be, from those groups or something. So,
right. The what did they call themselves? The Sith Eternal. Yeah.
It also makes sense that in the same way that Maul is recruiting Devon, that's the age group to go after. I used to work at an inner-city school, and we had to really be on guard with the 13, 14, 15-year-olds, because they were the ones that were recruited the hardest for the gangs, because they're at that impressionable age where they want to please people. And they want to please the people that they think have the power.
Yeah.
And so
there were some recent incidents.
Easily see that.
Yeah, there were some recent incidents here in the New York area of 13-year-olds, shooting people. It's being recruited into that violent, ultra violent lifestyle, so yeah, definitely. Like you said, Kathryn, impressionable, moldable, but also eager to please somebody who they perceive to be, in authority, Yeah,
you could easily see Vader and the others mowing down the Jedi Masters, and then if the apprentice is of a good age to try to recruit, they'd probably go after them and be like, okay, join us or die. And that kid's going to be freaking out.
Which we basically see that in Tales of the Empire, you know.
Yep.
They give Barriss that choice, you know, join us or die. They put the kids through that whole test where it's like, you know, you got to kill each other. They throw the one lightsaber in. It's like, you've all, you know, whoever comes out alive.
Yeah.
Only one of you can join us, you know, like, or as the Joker said in The Dark Knight, we're going to have tryouts. So, you know.
Yeah, I was about to say there's another Batman connection there, too.
I know, yeah. Yeah. And Barriss's friend she seems a bit older, but she was also former Jedi before joining the Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed to have been the Grand Inquisitor's number 2. I can't remember her name, but
yeah, I don't know if she gets a name because she lasts all the way at least through. We see her friend in Kenobi, in the Kenobi series, and then in the final Barriss episode of Tales is when we see when she finds Barriss and then she breaks good. So
right, yeah, which seemed to have been some indeterminate time in the future because they both aged a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like that we're getting more of the Inquisitors in this show. And we'll get to see more of the Crow than just him like getting owned by Ahsoka, basically. It's funny, like if they had a lead on Ahsoka, they should never have sent just one guy. And the Crow also seems to have I like that the Inquisitors, they're not like the Stormtroopers where they're just uniform, you know, each of them has their own style. And the Crow character seems to be very, very into the whole Imperial aesthetic, because on his cape, he's got the big Imperial gear symbol, very prominently on his cape. So that's interesting. But yeah, looking forward to to seeing more of him. Yeah, okay, so did we miss anything? This is a very straightforward episode, so I don't think you've missed a whole lot.
The only thing we didn't really touch on was that when their apartment was burning down, you see the digital picture of their family, or it might have been just of Riley and Brander, I don't remember. But that kind of
it was all three of them, yeah.
It was all three, okay, yeah. But you see that picture kind of fizzle out as it's burning, so very
symbolism.
Yeah, very very on the nose symbolism of things changing. So
your old life is burning away, right? So yeah. All right. So that's it for this episode then of The Secrets of Star Wars. But before we go, we'd like to take a brief moment to thank all our patrons who make this show possible, particularly Susan L., John and Greta C., Michael F., Justin D., and Mark M. Their generous donations help us to create The Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest. You can join them at givestarquest.com. You can follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, and also on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook. We are facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. On X, where we can be found at @SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to visit sqpn.com/merch for all your official Secrets of Star Wars gear. So now we'd like to hear from you, our listeners. What did you think of this latest chapter of Maul Shadow Lord? You can send us an email to starwars@sqpn.com. You can comment on our social media pages, or on YouTube, or on our you can check out our channel on the StarQuest Discord server. We have both a spoiler channel and a general Star Wars channel with all kinds of spoiler-free fun, which you can find at sqpn.com/Discord. So join us next time for another adventure in the Star Wars universe. But until then, Kathryn Laffrey, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Thank you, Thomas.
And Jeff Haecker, thank you as well.
Thanks, Thomas.
And once again, I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. Let's Science. Find the show wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/science.